We're very fortunate in Interpol World Television to have Paul Muller and Stuart Clarke from Nuix to come and tell us where Nuix fits into the global policing scene. Welcome to Interpol World Television.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves, first of all, and where you fit into Nuix, and then can you please tell us how Nuix fits in with the wider global policing scene?
All right, thank you, Philip. So Paul Muller is my name. I'm the CEO of Asia Pacific and Japan for Nuix. We're headquartered out of Sydney, Australia. We're a software company, and we developed our software initially out of Australia, and we've now gone on the global stage the last 10 years. We're represented with customers across 75 countries. We have about 15, 16 offices, 500 odd people. We're an emerging software company, very proud to be an Australian business on the global stage.
My name's Stuart Clarke. I'm responsible for our security and intelligence solutions. I work very closely with Paul and across the globe with our different teams, really helping them shape our solutions around both cybersecurity, but also in the law enforcement and investigation space. So very close to our customers, but also very close to our products. Really focusing on the key challenges that we're seeing in those different spaces, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be corporate organizations. My remit really is to make sure that we're driving technology towards solving those problems.
So intelligence, cyber, what other software solutions do you provide out there to help global policing?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a platform of solutions. In actual fact, it's very portable across literally every organisation, business out there. So we have a lot of corporate organisations, we have a lot of government, we have a lot of law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies. And our solutions typically fit into the domain of collecting data and looking at the disparate and very large volumes of information that's available out in the world there from many different sources, both structured information and unstructured information. And so first we go about seeking and sourcing and collecting and collating that information. And then we digest that in our magic source, as we call it, our engine, which allows us to normalize that data and allows us to search and look for trends and patterns, which then helps in an investigation process. Now, not only providing those type of solutions for law enforcement and for intelligence agencies, in a similar vein of investigations in the corporate world, and whether or not it's even in the hands of lawyers who are doing litigation and court evidential data sets, that whole paradigm is available to you under the Nuix portfolio, the Nuix platform.
So with that amount of data that's coming in, there's big data coming in from everywhere at the moment. One of the biggest issues is compliance. Where does Nuix fit into helping or not helping organizations with their compliance issues?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll say for Nuix gives organizations visibility into their data. So it's always been our unique strength that we have this unparalleled capability to really help organizations understand whatever data types they have, however complex, however disparate. The Nuix engine, which our technology sits on, has really been built to help solve those complex problems. So from a compliance perspective, we give you visibility into what data you have, so you can subsequently make better decisions from a compliance perspective. So if you need to comply with legislation, or if you focus on PCI, DSS, payment card industry legislation, you need to have a good grasp and good understanding of what your risk and what your threshold looks like as it pertains to payment card data. So Nuix is really an effective tool to help organizations get a grasp of where their risks lie. And we're really trying to encourage, give you that visibility, now make better decisions about it. And that then starts to bleed into making better decisions around security as well. If you've got visibility, you can make more informed decisions around security, around compliance, and subsequently you're better prepared for emerging investigations that might take place, or e-discovery, electronic discovery exercises as well.
Now you've got the tools that help enable people comply, but do you think that the end user, whether it be government or big corporates, actually understand what it is that they need to comply with and how to look after data, and or what the ability is for them to get what's out there in the big data world?
Yeah. Look, certainly, so as a technology company, we want to provide the best technology in the form of software and enable our users to exploit that to the fullest. But we really rely on our partner model out there, and particularly in the cases of things like regulatory compliance, working with advisories, so the large advisory firms around the world, all large consumers of Nuix themselves, to help then the end user recipient to identify what is the right information that is required and the extraction, and using Nuix as a tool to accelerate that, to get the right information in the right format at the right time. Because ultimately, it's not only about finding the truth in data and getting access to the knowledge of what's in that data, it's about time. And time is money, and time is brand and reputation. And if we can't move swiftly and provide results, then we fall behind. We're no better off. We can't meet regulator compliancy requests. We've seen a lot of activity, particularly in a market like Australia, but around the world, in regulators coming and providing subject matter requests with very short time windows. We've seen with GDPR in Europe, 72 hours to comply. How do you get into your data sources, and if they are very disparate data sources, also distributed across the internet and web and software as a service hosted systems, those repositories could be anywhere around the world. So Nuix allows us to go out and find that relevant data and bring it back so that there's a central processing capability of being able to extract and search and provide that knowledge to the user very quickly.
Now, you mentioned cybersecurity as part of your offering that's there, and with the data that's out there, protecting that data is critical. I asked this of everyone that mentions cybersecurity. Are we too much focused on the cybersecurity being a network issue and not the people? And should we be doing more about the people that are operating on the network at the input end or the output end, where the effect is for any cyber incident?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always been an interesting discussion point. And if you look back through history around security, but particularly around exploiting security, predominantly the weakest point in any organization and any network is the individual, is the person. And I've said this over the years, that people inside of organizations are a very critical asset, but they're a critical weakness as well. And from a security standpoint, if your security solutions are not close to the individuals and are not able to understand the user's behavior, you're really going to struggle from a security perspective. Yes, you can build up higher walls, you can build deeper moats, but the reality is your vulnerability is an individual, is a person inside of an organization. And that's where it's much broader than technology. Defense in-depth approaches around technology are critical, but you've got to have robust education programs so that employees and individuals know their requirements from a security standpoint, but also it's actually a benefit. To behave in a certain way and to behave in a secure way shouldn't be cumbersome, shouldn't be burdensome. It should actually be a benefit and should just fit naturally within your working day. And that's really where there's a shift, I think, and there needs to be more of a shift towards education, awareness. Technology just underpins all of that. And that technology has to recognize that it's a person at the end of the day. It's all well and good being perimeter level security, it's very effective, but it's the individual who is interacting with the data that is the biggest vulnerability, and we need to just be cognizant of that, I think.
Now, having a look at some of the capability that you have, you're pushing the boundaries of where big data is at the moment, but we know how technology is and it's rocketing forward. Where's it going next?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, technology evolves rapidly, and I think if you look at our position in law enforcement, for example, just look at how crimes have changed. Organized crime is incredibly sophisticated these days. If I look at when I first got into digital investigations, I was dealing with a single machine with a hard drive that had 4 gigabytes of data. I mean, if you look at what we have today, every individual has mobile devices, cloud-based repositories, drones, etc., etc. And actually at Interpol World, I spoke yesterday about one prominent organized crime, which is wildlife crime. It's become very sophisticated. It's leveraging things like blockchain technology for transactions, leveraging social media platforms for trading. It's a completely different paradigm to what we were used to in the past. And if you look to the future, I can only see that getting more complex. And I think it's important that events like this are great because they allow us to collaborate with others, to share ideas, and to try and get on the front foot. We know technology is going to change. We know technology is going to evolve. The implications of encryption are going to continue to become a problem, and that's where it's important that it's not just technology. We have legislation in place that can help us deal with those problems. And I think that for me, the big fundamental shift towards security and privacy and the trade-offs there was GDPR in Europe, where we've now started to recognize that privacy is critically important. But there's trade-offs there with privacy and visibility, and that's going to continue to be a tension in the future, I think, as we look at big data in the future. How do those two interplay? I think is going to be a big question mark as we move forward.
Now, you've had the chance to speak here and put your thoughts out to the delegates at this conference, but a large number haven't managed to make it, but will be able to watch us on Interpol World Television. What are the key messages that you'd want to put out to them as a lasting message from you?
So it's a couple of things to consider. I think going on the theme that we just spoke about, the problem never goes away. The growth of data, the explosion of data, and the number of devices out there that are creating this data and putting it back into the ether, it will continue to exponentially grow. We talk about now things like brontobytes of data as just massive, massive volumes of data, and the world is generating so much every day. So don't get scared by the amount of data that's being generated out there. There is technology, and we, for one, as an organisation, we tackle this paradigm and we tackle it extremely fast and extremely efficiently. But for us as an organisation, we have to continue in our research and development efforts to make sure that we can stay at best as we can at the front of the evolution of technology, of data in these data sets. So that's one message. I think secondly, the use of technology these days, it's available in any different format. It doesn't have to be complex. You know, we've got highly protected software as a service operating systems out there. And what we're finding is many law enforcement and government agencies are having elements of trust around public networks, but public networks under some quite secure criteria. So it's brave to dip your toe in the water, but it's also a safe water and a safe pond. So the data lakes might be large, but come swim in the pond, and come swim in the pond with us, and we'd be happy to show you that it's a comfortable swim, and we can help in the digestion of data and the extraction of the truth which lies in that data.
Yeah, and I think what I'd add to that, I think it's incumbent on organisations like us to provide technology that really does support what people are doing and the fight that people are taking on. And really, for me, if we provide that technology framework, it's got to facilitate collaboration. As data becomes more complex, as crime or compliance requirements become more complex, you need to have more eyes on. And I think my big takeaway message is we've got to be more cognizant of, we need to share, we need to collaborate, we need to get all of those different eyes on the data to make really the best decisions. And I think that's something historically we haven't been very comfortable doing. It's a focus for us as an organisation to make that easier, because there's an awful lot of knowledge in this room, there's an awful lot of knowledge in the industry that can solve these problems. But it's got to be done in a collaborative way, in a way that we can comfortably share information and subsequently leverage the intelligence that we've built over the years to do things smarter in the future, I think. So that would be my big takeaway message.
Well, fantastic. It's been fascinating finding out about Nuix. Thank you very much indeed for coming and giving up your time to talk to us on Interpol World Television.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.